Hi, everyone. Welcome to Converged Functionality of Oracle Autonomous Database Workshop. I hope everyone is staying safe and keeping well and socially distancing. My name is Priscilla Iruela. I am a Technology Product Strategy Director from Oracle, and I will be your guide and presenter for today's workshop. I am very excited to show you some innovative technologies that you can take advantage of, such as databases and its capabilities under the Converged database umbrella that we will present during today's session. But first, I would like to introduce some folks that are helping with today's workshop. As I mentioned, I will be your guide, and we will see presentations from Paul, Senior Data Strategist, and Victor and Roxana will do short demonstrations before we do every lab by yourselves. We also have several panelists who will be answering your questions behind the scenes. Ettore already presented himself. He's head of developer marketing for EMEA. We have Melanie, is a master principal sales consultant on the Oracle Solution Center. Thank you so much, Melanie, for putting the content together for today's workshop. We have John, that is Technology Strategy Product Manager, Paola and Rawan, that are Technology Product Strategy Managers, Amalraj and Quentin, that are Senior Domain Specialist Cloud Engineers from the data management point of view, and Mike, that is Principal Sales Consultant on the Oracle Solution Center. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this workshop. Here is the agenda. We will start after a short presentation pre-recorded about Converged database. We have recorded the intro to give the most info in the shortest amount of time. And after, we will go hands-on experience following the presentation. During lab number 1, we will provision an autonomous database. In this case, autonomous transactional database. On lab number 2, we will prepare the data source that we will use for the following labs using object storage. After getting the data ready, we will do labs related to JSON, SODA, Spatial, and XML. We will provide short demos before you do the labs by yourselves, providing tips for every lab. And at the end, we will give you a short recap and next steps that we did not have time to cover during today's workshop. As Ettore mentioned, we will spend around 3 hours together, and we will give you enough time to do each step to complete the labs. If you don't complete the exercises, don't worry, the environment will be available for you after the lab. So please work on your exercises at your own pace. That is the most important part, and have a good experience. Based on the flow of the workshop, and like it's 3 hours, we will allocate 10 minutes break so you can grab a coffee and stretch your legs a bit. Before today's session, you were sent a registration email with a request to complete some prerequisites, including a video to sign up for an Oracle Cloud account. I will start a poll now to see if you have completed the prerequisites. I hope you can see the poll now in your screen. So if you have done it, that's great. If not, you are going to do that in today's session, and your answers in the poll will allow us to allocate some time better. So on the screen, you can see a bit.ly link and a QR code to create and sign up for an Oracle Cloud account. So for those that haven't done it yet, please go ahead now and start creating the Oracle Cloud account. Please remember that to sign up for an Oracle Cloud account during the sessions, you will have excluded of a few verification steps during the sign-up process. And additionally, you will get $500 instead 300. So you can consume these credits during the next 30 days period. You will not need a credit card verification. In case you need for any reason, you will not be charged unless you want to upgrade after your 30 days trial period has ended. So follow the prompts in the sign-up process. For those that have completed the prerequisites, bear with me for a few more seconds, and we will go directly to lab 1 shortly. Thank you so much, guys, for filling out the survey. So now we can allocate a bit more time based on your answers. Thank you so much for that. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section in Zoom and not in the chat, and one of our panelists will answer. Please remember to write all the information in one question and include as much information as relevant as possible for the answer, especially the number of the lab and the step of the lab from the lab guide, so our panelists can support you properly. I just want to remind everyone to please read and carefully follow every step in the lab, and please do not skim. Each step is required for your lab to work properly. And if your lab is not working, please check to ensure you have followed every step before posting a question in the Q&A. So let's start. Before we go to the first lab, let's have a look at this short video to understand what Converged database is. We are using a pre-recorded video so you can get the most information as possible in the shortest amount of time. This video will be presented by Paul, Senior Data Strategist, and it will take approximately 3 minutes. So see you live in 3.
As companies build lots of new apps, analytics, and AI, they're faced with a terrible choice. Do they want developers to be more productive now, or their data to be more productive later? See, developers just want to get to work. And so they'll often prefer a single purpose database, like a document or graph database for the thing they're making right now. But the data that app produces could be really useful to lots of other apps, analytics, and AI. Those uses, though, often require query languages or access methods that the single purpose database just doesn't support. This causes all kinds of headaches for CTOs. So developers want one thing: the ease of use and specific features that come from single-purpose databases. And CTOs want something else: the ease of repurposing data across the enterprise that comes from common tooling, schedules for upgrades and patches, as well as security policies across all of the databases involved. So how can a company improve both its developer productivity and its data productivity? The answer is Oracle's Converged database. Oracle's Converged database is a multi-model, multi-tenant, multi-workload database. Multi-model means native support for multiple data models, including JSON, graph, and relational, and multiple access methods, some of which are cross-model, like REST APIs and SQL, some of which are model-specific, like PGQL for property graphs. Multi-tenant means a container architecture in the data tier, providing consolidation, isolation, and agility for databases, which is a much better match to the containerization in the app tier. Multi-workload means a wide array of optimizations for different kinds of database jobs, like parallel execution for machine learning, or fast in-memory commits for streaming data coming in from smart sensors. Oracle's Converged database is available in multiple clouds, as local cloud in your own data center, but managed by Oracle, as well as on-premises. Perhaps best of all, Oracle Autonomous Database delivers Oracle's Converged database as a fully managed cloud service. With Oracle's Converged database, companies can give both developers and CTOs what they want, improving both developer productivity and data productivity at the same time. As companies
So now we come to lab number 1, provisioning autonomous database. You can access to the content following the bit.ly link that you can see in the slide, or scan the QR code. There you have the exercises that we will follow for today's session. Victor will talk briefly and do a short demonstration about how to provision an ATP database. So good morning, Victor. Over to you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Yeah, let me share the screen. So I want to briefly just mention a few of the steps that you will do during the provisioning. Basically, if you can see in this lab, you have the provisioning ATP task. So I'm going to walk through some of the steps there. So let's go to my console in Oracle Cloud, and I'm going to go to the menu, Oracle Databases, and then I click Autonomous Database. I already have one created to save some time, but I'm going to walk you through the steps. So you have to check the compartment. Is usually if you have created the trial, just right now, you will have only the root compartment. The root compartment is a good place for the testing. I'm going to use my personal one in this tenancy, but the next step will be to create autonomous database. So click the button, and then there is some information that you have to provide. If you see during the lab, you will have the information that you need all in one single place. So you can see that the compartment will be root, that the Converged is going to be the name and the display name and the database name. So let's come back here and put that there. And that's good. Then we have to select transaction processing. There are different type of workloads that you can explore at any point in time. But for today's workshop, we are going to go for transaction processing. Shared infrastructure is selected by default. Leave it like that. Always free needs to be disabled. So just like that, you can select the different versions. In my case, in my region, I only have 19C. And then everything else, you can leave it as it is. One of the other values that you need is the password. So if you follow the steps, this is exactly what I'm doing. And then at some point, we will tell you what password. So you copy and then you paste here and here to confirm. And then there is other steps. Everything by default allows secure access from everywhere and then license included. And with that, you can click Create Autonomous Database. That will be the whole process for creating an autonomous database. It usually takes like a couple of minutes, 3 minutes, and then you will see that it's active, available here with the green icon. That means that your database is already created. So that is all for lab number 1 for provisioning. So best of luck, follow the steps.
Hello all, welcome back. We want to check how lab 1 goes for you. We will launch a poll to review if you have completed lab number 1. If you haven't completed, don't worry. As I said, work at your own pace, and we are here to support you with the questions in the Q&A. Okay, thank you so much. Let's give the poll for a few more seconds so a few more people can answer. Thank you for that, guys. This is basically for allocating more time for you to work. Good. Okay. Few more seconds. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for answering. Now we come to lab number 2, preparing the data source into object storage using an Oracle object bucket, populating the data in your bucket, generating an auth token, and prepare the credentials SQL. You can access to the content following the bit.ly link, as I mentioned before, and then you have there all the exercises that we will do today. Roxana will talk briefly and do a short demonstration about how to prepare the data source into object storage. Good morning, Roxana. Over to you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Good morning, everyone. Okay, let me share my screen. So in this lab, we will prepare the Converged data sources to work with the data for the remaining labs. We will use object storage buckets to upload the data, and then we will create credentials for autonomous database to connect to object storage. So if I scroll down here in the lab, I can see the first task is to create an object storage bucket. You have all the steps here. I will go to my Cloud Console. This is the Oracle Cloud homepage. If I go to the main menu, storage, I have buckets under object storage. I will click on it. Sorry for this, my session just expired. If I go back to the lab, I can see the steps necessary for creating the bucket. Let me just log in again. Okay, so I'm back in my Cloud Console, going back to storage, buckets, make sure to choose the right compartment, and we have the create bucket button here. I will just click on create, and we have all the necessary information here, the bucket name, which should be the lab bucket. I will just copy this and put here in the bucket name. I will keep the default for the storage type and the encryption, and just hit the create button. And now I have my bucket ready. If I return to the documentation, we can see that we need to download the data sources. We have the dump file for the spatial, we have the dump for the JSON data, and the last one is the XML file, which will be open in another window. So I will right click on it. I will click on Save As and save the file. The next step will be to return to the bucket and click on Upload button. We have the option to drag and drop the files here, or click on Select, and we can select multiple files at a time. Click on Open and click on Upload button. You will see the progress bar on the right-hand side, and now the data is in the object storage. The next step will be to generate an authentication token, and for this I will return to my Cloud Console. You will see on the right corner the profile icon. I will just click on it, and the first link is my username. I will click on my username, and if I scroll down under resources, I have the authentication token. I will click on generate token. If I go back, I will see that I need to provide a description, lab token, for example, and click on generate token. I can click on show to see the token. This is the only time when the token is displayed. So I will just copy this and save it in a text editor. Okay, going back. The next step is to prepare the credentials to authenticate the autonomous database to object storage. I will use again the text editor, and you will see that I'm using the DBMS cloud package. This comes with autonomous database. I have the create credentials procedure. We need to provide the credential name for our credential, lab bucket credential this time, and for the username, we need to go back to the cloud store, to the cloud interface, and take this entire stream, including Oracle Identity Cloud Service. I will go back to my text editor, put on for the username my user, and for the password, I will use the token. Make sure to save this file, and we are going to use it later. Good luck, and if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A section.
Hello again, welcome back. I hope you completed lab number 2. Let's launch a poll to see how is going the progress of the workshop. I hope you are understanding and following all the exercises and all the steps correctly. We spend a lot of time putting the content together, and hopefully we don't have a lot of problems following that. Okay, let's wait a few more seconds to see how you guys are keeping. For those that have already completed, you can go ahead if you want in the next exercises. Just remember that before every lab, we will do a short demo that either Roxana or Victor will present, providing tips, but you can go ahead with the other exercises if you prefer. Okay, thank you so much for letting us know. Now we come to lab number 3. This is where actually the workshop starts, because now we have the database ready and the data that we will use ready. We come to lab number 3, JSON. During this lab, you will see and you will use SQL Developer Web. Prepare your user to access to object storage, create an external table, load JSON dump file, insert and update a record. And I just want to mention that task number 7, we have more queries to execute for JSON. You don't have to complete all these queries. guys, we recommend you that maybe you can do the optional queries after the workshop, so you can spend time this afternoon or tomorrow, wherever you want, seeing and understanding a bit more the workshop. The most important part are basically steps from 1 to 4, and then start inserting and updating records. But let's listen to Victor and see what Victor has to say about the tips of this lab number 3. Over to you, Victor.
Thank you, Priscilla. Many steps we have to do. So let's begin with JSON. Basically, what we are going to do is start SQL Developer Web, what is basically a SQL developer that is integrated with the web service. So that is very handy. And what you have to do is, if you are not in the Autonomous database, you go to Oracle databases, Autonomous databases, and then you click on your Converged database. Now you go to tools. Okay, there are many tools here, but the ones that we are going to initially start working with are the database actions. For the database actions, we need to put the schema. Basically, it's the admin one that that is created by default when you provision the database. So you click next, and then here you put the password. For that, in all the steps, there is always the information that you need. You can copy from here, or just if you remember the password, type it there, you sign in, and then you are going to log in inside of the database actions. From all the actions that you can do here, the one we are going to work is the SQL one. So click SQL for the SQL Developer Web. And as you can see, this is the canvas for your code. And then you can inspect the services, you can inspect the tables from this schema, and many other tools that we are going to use during this lab. A next step is basically to copy and paste the content from create credentials. So that is the steps that we did in the previous lab. And basically it's just copy and paste that code and run it. So let's do that so you know how this is performed. So I'm going to copy the content with already my token, and I already my user. So all good. And then you click in that button. The difference between this one and this one, and you will jump between one or other depending on what you are doing. This one is going to run the whole script from start to end. And this one is going to run only the statement where the cursor is. So in this case, we want to run this line, but also the begin and end. So we are going to click here. And that will throw you an error. If you see that error, double check, because that is usually because you have some of the information, like for example, in this one is complaining about the greater than. So just check that all the values are good and make sure you are not making any mistake. After you have done that, I already ran this part, so it's okay. So you can go to the next step, task number 3, that is create the external table. So if you remember, we create the object storage with dumped some information. We are going to create an external table referencing that. And then we are going to basically do a copy of that information in other tables. So let's jump into that. If you go to the object storage and bucket, you are going to get the URL of one specific file, that is the purchase orders dump file. So let's do that. I'm in my Autonomous database. I go back, menu, storage, as Roxana explained before, buckets, and then in the bucket, lab bucket is the one that contains the file. And in this case, we are going to just get to the context menu. And in this case, you have many options like from delete, rename, etc., etc. But the one we are going to be interested is the view object details. In that one, we are going to copy that URL. Basically, that is the URL that references this file in object storage. The next step is to go to the content and continue with the steps. So we have copied that URL. And then we have this script that I want you to run. And that is very important. The first step you have to do is to replace the file URL here. And then you have to find that line and replace it with the URL you have put. So let's do that again. I'm going to copy in another file my URL for the object, and then I'm going to copy this option, get back to the SQL Developer Web. And in this case, we are going to remove all the text, paste it, and then I have to replace this. Those are the things that you have to pay attention during the workshop, because that is what is going to give you some errors. So if anything like that happens, just take a look here in the script output and paste in the Q&A all the answers. So in my case, and I'm going to do it so you see what the steps are, you are going to just replace that with the URL. So this is going to create a table name purchase external. It's going to use the lab bucket credentials, and it's going to take the file from this URL. So that is the way. The rest is just format and how you are going to interpret the column list. You run the whole script with this command. And then you are done with task number 3. For task number 4, 5, and 6, and the 7 that is the optional, the process is very simple. It's always the same. You are going to create a table. So in this case, you copy the code, you come back to SQL Developer Web, you clean this, you paste, and then you run the command. So once again, in this case, it's just one statement. So you can run it with this, and that is going to create tables. A successful result is table purchase order created. So that's good. You can jump into the next step. The next step will be an insert, and then you can carry over with task 5, 6, and if you have time, as Priscilla mentioned, the additional example queries. Try to understand those queries, try to interpret what you are doing with JSON, and that is all about the JSON lab. So best of luck.
Hello all, welcome back. I hope you have time to do lab number 3. Let's launch a poll and see how are you keeping, guys. We know lab number 3 has a lot of different steps. So let's review how are you keeping, and if you have completed, and if you haven't, we can allocate a few more minutes to see how are you keeping. That exercise is important because, as I mentioned before, right? We have configured the autonomous database, we have configured the data that we will use, and it's important to have it completed. Okay, I think that kind of a bit more than half of you have already completed. Then what we will do is we will do the break now. Then for those that haven't finished lab number 3, you will have 10 extra minutes because we will do the break. After the break, we will go through lab number 4. Let's see, it's already 10 to 11 or 10 to 12. So let's give this 10 minutes of break until 11 or until 12, based on where you are. For those that haven't completed lab number 3, please keep working at your own pace. And then we will start working on lab number 4 in 10 minutes. So in these 10 minutes of break, if you want to keep ahead and you want to complete the other exercises, feel free to do it. We will be here to support you with your questions, not a problem, but we really want to provide like a few extra minutes of break for those that want to go for a coffee or want to go for just stretch your legs. In the meantime, what we will do is I will talk briefly with Roxana and Victor. We have 10 minutes, as I said. So Roxana, Victor, are you there? Yeah, perfect. Then I have seen that we don't have too many questions this morning. It's a good signal, but I would like to talk to you a bit about Converged databases. So Roxana, you are a database administrator. So what is the value for database administrators of using Converged databases?
Well, the value, of course, is having multi-tenant technology, which is a really powerful feature. Basically, it allows you to consolidate multiple databases into a single one, and it provides isolation in the same time. And of course, it saves you a lot of time. Instead of administering, I don't know, 10 different databases, you have only one. So yeah, this is why it's so great.
Yeah, That is very good. And Victor, what about you? Your background is a developer, right? So we are talking about Converged databases and the value for these developers that we have attending to today's workshop. So what is the value for developers, and what Converged can offer to these developers?
Yeah, it's very simple. Like for developers, we want to store the information in the best possible way. We care about the data structure, how things are placed on that data. And we have different formats that, depending on the case, we want to work. So some of them are relational databases. So everything is very structured and I know what values I'm going to get. In some other cases, I probably prefer JSON. So JSON is a good example because it's a document type database. So that means that I'm going to just throw information there in JSON format. I have to validate when I'm programming on my side, but that gives me the flexibility of changing the schema at any point in time without having to take care of how I update the schema, how I change my tables, how I change my columns, the types. I just throw information in JSON format and put it on Oracle databases, in this case, autonomous. And then the most important part as well is how I get that information back. That is why I'm picking the way I want to store information. So how I read it. In this case, even with JSON, for continuing with that specific example, you can do queries by example. We will do it in the next lab, but basically query by example is that I will give a similar JSON with the values that I would like to retrieve, and that will be my query, exactly an example of what I want to get. And then the database will transform that. You don't have to worry about that in a proper query, and that will be the end result for me. So it's kind of like a nice way because I'm all the time talking in JSON. Or another good example could be spatial. So I'm working with positions in a map, and that is very interesting because I can easily calculate the distance and where are the top closest stores to a specific location. So it's really nice for creating web applications with different type of information store. And yeah, it's a nice playground. For autonomous, on top of that, you have the SQL Developer Web, that basically you don't have to configure anything on your computer. You can run queries, start learning, improving, testing, doing a lot of things just with the browser. What is very nice in terms of a developer experience.
That is actually a very good point. And I wanted to ask you now, guys, because we launched and we did similar events in the past about Converged capabilities on top of other databases, right? Not just autonomous, let's say on-premise databases. But we selected for this workshop to cover JSON, SODA, spatial, and XML. There are other capabilities right on top of the Converged capability of the databases, like relational or analytical. Why do you think these 4 or 2 or 3 or whatever, these 4 capabilities that we selected to do during today's workshop are relevant for customers?
I can mention about like JSON and SODA. It's really nice because it's basically the language. Like JSON is the language of internet. Every time you go to a website, what is happening is that website is fetching information from the backend in JSON format. So every time you do that, that is like a language that humans can read and also computers can read. So it's kind of like a really standardized way to communicate information. And in the most of the cases, all the document-based databases are based on this format. So it's kind of like, it makes sense. It's the standard that you expect. So that's why we pick those, because they will probably be very generic things that everybody is trying to use. For spatial is a specific case. Roxana, you maybe want to cover a little bit. You will do lab number 5. But XML is a little bit like old school. And at some point in time, you will have to deal with XMLs at this point. So it's a nice feature that you can query XMLs, store it there, and have like a repository. For spatial, Roxana, maybe you want to mention something?
Yeah, we have a lot of applications today that are using spatial data. I mean, here we talk about the location awareness application. So we need this kind of feature in our database. And now it's really great that we have Oracle Spatial included in all the database editions, and it's so easy to use, and we have it already there, so we don't need to do anything to install or configure. We just have it there, we import the data, and work with it. And on top of this, we have a lot of operators to use, and it makes it more simple to manipulate the spatial data.
That is actually a very good comment over there, Roxana, because guys, you know that before, right, like a few years back, spatial was a capability that you have it to purchase separate and was just available in Enterprise Edition, Database Enterprise Edition on premise, right? Now, spatial, as Roxana mentioned, is a capability that we have included as part of every single database that we have in the market, again, on premise or in the cloud, because we wanted to give it as part of the Converged capabilities for all of you to enjoy and use it. And as Roxana mentioned, right, it's difficult to find an application that doesn't have spatial capabilities these days. Coming from Uber, that they use it to allocate where the taxis are, right, to, as Victor mentioned, I want to see where is the closest Vodafone store, the closest to my location. So everyone uses these days spatial geolocation, and it's important that we are promoting that spatial is available for all of you.
And
okay.
if we have time.
Yeah, of course. We have 3 more minutes. Yeah, please go ahead.
Probably it's not there. It's not in the list. That's why I want to mention. But it's something that you can, after the workshop, start learning. That is graph as well. Graph databases is very important. Now we are living in a world where everything is connected. We have like social networks. There is relationships, different levels, different properties of those relationships between people, between different entities. So graph allows you to traverse those nodes and get queries in a very nice way. Like, for example, you can say who I'm related by 5 levels. So that means the friend of a friend of a friend to 5 levels. And then you can get a list in just milliseconds. Do that with relational. It will take you like a huge headache. So depending on the information you are storing, you can find a best paradigm to store that information. And that is the beauty of Converged. For the developer point of view, there is other for DBAs, as probably you, Priscilla, know, like, well, it's not the same to create a disaster recovery high available plan for many databases, different providers, different. Imagine just one single place. You do the plan once, and then all the information is stored. Like for DBAs, it should be as well like the paradise.
Yeah, and actually, we have to select it a few of the capabilities right from Converged, because otherwise we could spend here 2 days presenting to you all the capabilities. But using Oracle platforms like we have, for instance, Live Labs, right? You have other contents, and we have a lot of contents that have as well graph included, as Victor mentioned. So we invite you to go to Live Labs and investigate it and see other capabilities that we have available on Converged. Or maybe, guys, we can prepare a new workshop for you talking about graph and spatial together. Or whatever you require, please feel free to contact us via email, that we will provide our emails later on, or here in the chat or in the Q&A section, and then we will include it as part of our workshops. Thank you so much, Roxana, Victor, for having this short chat. We have 1 more minute, so let's wait these few seconds to have all our customers back, just in case they have go for a coffee. And then let's move on to lab number 4, that we will do soda. So thank you so much for your little talk. I hope, guys, that you enjoy it as more as we did. Then it's 11 or 12, wherever you are based. Then let's move on to the lab number 4. So during this lab, we will prepare the environment, connect your database from Python, insert a soda collection into your database, and view your soda collection from the database. In this case, Victor is the one that will do the short demo. So Victor, again, over to you.
Thank you. Actually was sharing some content about graph, because everybody is asking on the Q&A. So let's jump on Soda. Soda is very interesting as well. It's a really nice library, so you can access your JSON workload. So things that we want to cover in this lab. So basically, The four tasks that we're going to do is to prepare the environment, connect with Python to our database, and then insert with Soda in Soda collections, and also view some of the Soda collections that we have created. So let's jump into the first step. What we are going to do is to copy the unique identifier of our autonomous database, and then we are going to run this command in the Cloud Shell. And the Cloud Shell, I'm going to briefly mention what it is, but let's come back to the autonomous database. So let's go to OCI console, menu, Oracle database, and then autonomous database. You probably are already here in your Converged database. But basically, what we are going to do is to copy this Oracle Cloud identifier. Okay, so that is the link. And the Cloud Shell is in this button. So Cloud Shell, what it is. Meanwhile, it's loading. Basically, this is a terminal with a Linux environment already pre-built for you. It's free of charge. It's basically your playground. You don't need to install anything on your computer. Everything can be done from here. And many tools like the OCI CLI, the command line for talk to Oracle Cloud, is already pre-installed, pre-built, pre-set up. All the configuration is done, and it's a really nice place. You can maximize, minimize. Feel free to play with the Cloud Shell, but basically what we are going to do is to paste that command. And that, explaining really quick, OCI database. Now, in autonomous database, we are going to generate the wallet. The wallet is all the cryptographic material and connections and configuration for creating a connection with an autonomous database. We are going to set up the password. We know that from the previous step. We are going to define what is the name of the file. This is the file that we are going to end up with in our Cloud Shell. And then the autonomous database ID. And that is the ID that we have to copy. So I'm going to remove the placeholder, come here, click copy, and then paste it. Happy days. Then enter, and it looks like nothing happens. It takes a few minutes, few seconds. And then if we list, we will see that we have the Converged wallet zip file. That's good. We can come back to the content. All of these steps are done. You just have to follow all the steps. Okay, I'm just going through some of the important steps that you have to run. But for task number 2, what we are going to do is to make sure that Python is installed. I'm sure it is, but just to see how to run this type of commands, I'm going to paste this first. That is going to give me the version of Python. That's good. Now we are going to unzip the file and put it in a folder called wallet. That's good. So there is nothing there like wallet. And then I run this, is extracting all the files. And then if I list again, now I have a folder with wallet. That's very good. Now, next step. This is a command that is going to replace something inside of a file. So we are going to replace in this wallet sqlnet.ora. We are going to replace that is a default value with your home wallet. So pointing to that in that SQL net.ora. Run that. That was quick. We can print the result for you to check. So that is the command that you have to run. And as you can see, it's just copy, paste, understand what you are doing. Steps are very simple. And in this case, you will end up with something like that at the end of that line. Home, the name of your home directory that usually take, like, it depends on your name and so on. And then wallet. We are good. That means that we have everything we need. We have the wallet. And now we are going to execute this command. And this command is going to create a myconnection.py. That is a script in Python that is going to hold all the information for the connection. Let's do that. When you paste, then you click enter, and then you will have a file that is my connections. In my case, because I have a different name for the database, I have to change this one. You don't have to do anything. In my case is Converged big. So that is the only change I have to do. You don't have to do it if you follow the standards of the workshop. And in this case, you can execute the next steps. Feel free to learn what means every of these parameters. It's important that you understand all the steps. And then here we are going to create our first file. I already have it, so I basically copy, paste it, and run it. And then we are going to run that script. That is the last step I'm going to do for you to show you, and then you can work on your own. So Python 3, we're going to execute soda1.python, and this is going to return the database version from our autonomous database. This is a good spot to identify any error, any issue with the connections. So let us know in the Q&A. But if you get this result, you can continue with the rest of the steps. Just clarifying, 3 is exactly the same. You are going to create different files in Python. So you copy, paste, enter, and then run it. That is exactly what you are doing. So pay attention to different things that we are going to do on those scripts. I just want to mention, for example, in this case, we are inserting multiple information. So this will be our JSON type of format. That is the different whales. So for example, humpback, sperm, minke. There are minke whales where I live. So we are going to store this information, what they eat, and the status, if they are in danger or if they are near threatened. So try to understand what is happening here in all the scripts and enjoy the lab. Yeah.
Welcome back. So we are close to the last 2 final exercises of today's workshop. Let's see how the SODA lab has been going for all of you. I hope you have completed. Again, for those that already completed, you can go ahead. Remember that we provide short tips of every exercise, but this workshop is for you. You can work at your own pace, and we are here to support you with the questions. So take advantage of that, guys, because we have a lot of people in the panelist section that is eager to answer and to help you answering your questions. So again, we know that this content is extremely long, but again, we just want you to understand every single exercise and take the most. Later on, you can work at your own pace, and you can always send us an email with the questions that you have related to every exercise. Okay, so now we go to lab number 5, spatial. This is actually one of my favorites. In this lab, you will prepare the environment, load the data, connect to SQL Developer Web, examine your spatial data, and run spatial queries. As in previous exercises, we have created an optional section to run even more queries that you can do after the workshop. In this case, Roxana will talk to us about spatial, and we provide a few tips. Roxana, over to you.
Thank you, Priscilla. This is my favorite lab as well. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so welcome to Oracle Spatial Lab. You can see at the beginning some information about spatial, a short video explaining what spatial does. And for this lab, we are going to use these 3 tables: customers, warehouses, and warehouses DTP. And the first step will be to load the data. To achieve this, we are going to use again CloudShare. We are already familiar with it from the previous step. And the first step will be to export these TNS admin variables. So I will just copy this, go back to my Cloud Console, and click on the CloudShare. It will take a few seconds to open my CloudShare. Okay, it's ready, and I will just paste the comment here. Now that I have this variable set, I can proceed and connect to my autonomous database using SQL+. So basically, this is another way to connect to our autonomous database. If we don't want to use SQL Developer, we can use SQL+ as well. Okay, so I'm going to use admin user. This is the password, and Converged TP here is the service name. So autonomous database comes with 5 pre-configured services depending on the actions that you are going to do. So we have high, medium, low, TP, and TP urgent. For this task, I will use TP. Now I'm connected to the database and I'm ready to create the user. This is the destination schema where the spatial data will be uploaded. We will grant the DW role to our schema. This role is predefined in autonomous database and it has the most common privileges that we need as a database user. What it doesn't have included is this quota on the table space. This is why we are altering the user. I will just copy this code and paste it in SQL+. Okay, I have my user created and I can go ahead and see the steps needed to do the import of the spatial schema. So first of all, we will need to go back to the storage bucket and take the URL for our dump. So I'm going back to my Cloud Console, the menu, storage, and buckets. Make sure you are in the right compartment and access your bucket. I will minimize a bit CloudShare. If I scroll down, I can see under objects my spatial dump, and I will click on the action menu and view object details and take the URL for my dump file. I will save it in a text editor again and return to the guide. Okay, the next step will be to prepare the import command. So we are going to use data pump utility to import the data. And I will just copy this command and paste it here. We need to put the admin password, which is Oracle 12345, and replace the service name, which could be Converged in our case. Then we need to specify the credential that we already created, the directory, the default one is data.pamdir. This is already created in autonomous database, so we don't need to create it manually. And we need to paste here the URL for the dump file. Okay, now the command is ready and we can copy it and go back to CloudShare. I will just exit SQL Plus and run the import. It will take a few seconds to run the import command. As you can see in the screenshot, we expect to have two errors. One saying that the user already exists because we have just created it, and another one with a DBA role that doesn't exist in autonomous database. After importing the data, we are ready to manipulate spatial data, and for this we are going to use SQL Developer Web. I'm returning to, okay, so now my import is done. I'll minimize this and I will go back to Oracle databases, transaction processing, and access my database. On tools, we have database actions, and this time we are going to connect using app spatial user. I will just copy this and put the password. This one is different than the admin password, so take care with this. And now I will be connected to database actions, click on SQL, and on the left-hand side, we can see the tables that were imported. You will see here some example, how to view the definition of the table, how to insert data. You have some explanation about each operator and function that is being used. And you have also some queries that can be used to select spatial data. So make sure to go through all the steps and enjoy this lab.
Hello all, welcome back. Well, this is everything for a spatial lab. So we will launch the poll and see how are you keeping with lab number 5. And we are almost at the end of the workshop. So we have the final lab that is XML. So it's around 30 more minutes, guys. So thank you so much for keeping these 2 hours and a half with us already. We know it's a very long content, but there are loads of very interesting things to learn and practice on this workshop. Okay, don't worry, for those that haven't completed lab number 5, you still can practice and keep doing the exercises after the event. And again, you can keep posting the questions in the Q&A or send us an email. We will answer your questions outside of the event as well. Okay, so final lab for today, XML. On this workshop, we will use again SQL Developer Web that you are already familiar and you know how to do it. We will prepare your user to access the object storage as you did before. Create an external table from a file. You already did it. Create a table from an external table and insert and update XML records. The task number 7, again, is an optional query that you can run either during the workshop or after, and then you can learn a bit more about XML. Roxana, final demo for today. So over to you.
Thank you, Priscilla. Let me share again my screen and hide the meeting controls. Okay, so this is the final demo for today. In this lab, we are exploring Oracle XML features and how we work with XML data inside Oracle database. Again, we have this short video that I recommend you to watch it. Okay, the first task will be to start SQL Developer again and to prepare our user to access object storage. So I'm going to my Cloud Console, access Oracle database, transaction processing, and I will click on my Converged database, tools, and database actions. For this lab, we are going to use admin user. Here we need to provide a password for the admin. It takes 2 seconds to log in, and now we can click on SQL to open a worksheet file. Okay, going back to the guide, we can see the next task is to prepare the credential. We already did this for our admin user, but if you haven't done it, please do it now. Creating the credential using this procedure, using our Oracle Cloud user and the authentication token that we have generated. The next step will be to create an external table that will hold our XML data. And to do this, we will need to go to our buckets, to bucket again, and take the URL path for our XML file. I will do the same and return to my Cloud Console. Click on the menu, storage, buckets. I will search my bucket where I uploaded data to, and I have here the XML file. I will click on the 3 dots and view object details. I will take this URL path and copy it and paste it in my SQL Developer Web. Going back to the documentation, we can see the script to create the external table. Again, we are going to use DBMS Cloud, the package that comes with Oracle Autonomous Database. We need to provide a name for our table, the credential name. This is the credential that we have created. And here we need to put the URL. And these are some format and columns list options. I will go here and paste my code, take the URL and paste it here. Okay, all I need to do is to run the statement, but I already have done this. Okay, next we will create a table based on this external table. This is another way to import data in Autonomous Database. We will use the extract value function, and then we will create the table. Then we will insert an XML record in our table. And for this, we need to download this SQL file. Click on it. And this is the code to insert the data. You will see that this is XML format. Just take the code and go back to SQL Developer Web and paste it here. We have a commit at the end, so we need to run script. So this is how easy it is to insert the data, and the next step will be to update the values in the XML table. Again, we are going to use a function, extract value function, and run this update command. For the updates, we have the update XML function that can be used, and we will replace the user to this new user. Make sure to copy this and again run it in SQL Developer Web in the same way. On the final task, task number 7, we have some additional queries. These are optional, but it's good to go through them because we will learn how to better work with XML data. I hope you enjoyed the final lab and have a great day ahead.
Hello all, welcome back. If you did not complete lab number 6, that's okay. Please work at your own pace, at your own time. To recap, we have covered on today's workshop what is Converged database. We have provisioned an ATP database and create object storage buckets to store the data. We have run JSON, SODA, Spatial, and XML queries. And we have used SQL Developer Web and SQL Plus to run queries. I hope you enjoyed the session and feel free to ask questions on the Q&A section. We still have a few more minutes. Ettore, so I think that now it's over to you. Oh, you are around? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, here we are, and really thank you. So some additional resource here, guys. In the meantime, you can continue to work on the last labs you are performing. So here you have some useful links. First of all, I kindly ask to provide your feedback and your comment so we can improve and do something better for future event. You have the link also into the chat. Then there is the link to this page where actually you can continue to ask for information and to be supported by our team, by our squad that is following the conversation and can provide you helps also offline, let's say, offline from these events. Then I remind you that if you had the chance to sign up for a free tier, an Oracle free tier account, there is a component of always free services that will never end. Okay, so of course you can check the list that really gives you the chance to implement some nice workloads without any limits in terms of times. Plus the 30 days of trial for some products where you can spend the credits, the $500 in credits that we provide today. And the opportunity to spend these credits will be to join our next session, as I said at the beginning, on Red Bull Racing machine learning data. So 21st of October, also the link is in chat. And another funny stuff, an add-on that we are having here. So this session, this event is part of the Modern App Dev Masterclass series. For each of the event, we are creating a specific digital badge, Developer Pioneer on Converged database. So if you want, you can take the quiz. The quiz link will be shared also into the thank you mail with the link to the record of this session, of course, and all the other useful links that you will find also later. So you can have your quiz, and then you can share and create digital buzz around the Converged database and your experience with Oracle today. So really, I think that now it's everything from my hand. I would really thank you, Priscilla, the perfect host, Victor and Roxana, incredible insight, and all the team that is here today to support you. And I give you the last chance to say thank you, Priscilla, and then we close. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Ettore. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session. And thank you so much for all the panelists. As Ettore mentioned, Roxana, Victor, you have done an amazing job. And a special thank you to Melanie for putting the content together. As we said, please follow the links that Ettore has shared and join us in the next workshops that we will run in a month's time. Thank you so much for all of you joining us, and have a good day and see you soon.